Meanwhile, back on the podcast, 4 colossal nerds named Saba, Chris, Christina, and Frank have set out to take on a great darkness that has enveloped the world of fandom with their powers of common sense and the strength to take on even the most butthurt Twitter mobs and insufferable comment section trolls. They fight for truth, objectivity, and nuance in the conversation and debate over fictional made-up shit.
Welcome back to another exciting episode of Meanwhile Back on the Podcast. I'm Frank McGuire.
I'm Christina Dudamas.
I'm Saba Amir.
I'm Chris Abana.
Welcome, guys. Welcome. Whether you're a first-time listener or a returning listener, thank you again for joining us. We've been getting some incredible support as of late, and we want to thank you all. It's been great to have you guys here, and we really love what we do. So for this episode, we are doing our second part of our spoiler hot review of the DC Animated Universe adaptation of Red Son, which was written by Mark Millar. And so let's jump into this, guys. We left off talking about Piotr, but I think we pretty much finished up with Piotr. So let's talk about a couple of the things that we didn't really get a chance to dive into. One is this version of the Green Lantern Corps. We find out that obviously this is something that's consistent within the comic book too, is that the American government has discovered a crashed UFO, and the crashed UFO is Abin Sur's Green Lantern ship. It doesn't look like the Green Lantern ship that I've seen in the comic books. It's a very kind of pop cultured kind of version of it, with that kind of like very distinctive kind of shape with the fin and the, the needle nose and all that. But they find a dead alien inside, and he's got a Green Lantern ring on.
Also, they found him in Roswell, which is also funny to me.
But they don't state that in the animated movie. They only say that in the comic book.
No, do they?
No. They said it. I remember because I was
Did they?
oh, that's cool. That's their Area 51 in the movie. They did, yeah.
Did they? Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't hear them mention Roswell, because honestly, when I read that in the comic book, I got pretty fucking giddy because I'm a huge believer in Roswell. Yeah, Roswell is a very monumentous event. Like, I really think that the story behind it is very mythic and very much, it's taken on the form of, an urban legend, and it's fueled a lot of conspiracy theories over the years. So it was really cool to kind of see that be included within this particular narrative and attached to the Green Lantern Corps of all the groups within the DC universe. It was very, very, very cool to see.
What did you guys think of how Hal Jordan was introduced in the movie, and how the Green Lantern Corps story played out? Because it was definitely interesting to see them sort of take on Superman in the way that they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely like how they were like made as a team from the get-go, because in most Green Lantern like incarnations, it's like Hal Jordan's the first one, and then eventually John Stewart and everybody else like join one by one. But here it's like right away they're a team, and it's like they're bred for one purpose and one purpose only: so take out the super weapon from the other side. And I like that. Like, I like that it's like very militarized. Obviously, I wouldn't like it if it was a Green Lantern story, because like, why, right? But in the context of this story, it's pretty cool how they're like mobilized right away for one purpose.
Yeah, they had everybody, right? They had Kyle Rayner, they had Guy Gardner, they had John Stewart, they had Hal Jordan.
And Guy Gardner is a fuck up again. God damn it, Guy Gardner.
Yeah. It would have been cool to see Jessica Cruz pop up and let her be like the only female recruit there, but that didn't happen.
But I guess because it was like the 50s or the 60s or whatever.
Exactly.
They didn't want to bring like another woman character into it.
Exactly. That was definitely
she could have been there. I don't see why not.
I like to imagine that these Lantern Corps were kind of like, or like this Lantern team was kind of just like a little bit weaker than the normal Green Lanterns, because it's like, if you think about it, they have one ring, right? I don't even know, they never even mentioned if they have the actual lantern to power it. But it's like it feels like they just like split the power from that one ring. But it was surprising because they actually, like, spoiler alert, like they actually overpower Superman. I was really surprised.
To a degree, yeah. They definitely have their moment against Superman.
Like, if you remember, they won that fight. At least in the movie, they won that fight. But Wonder Woman came in and I mean like Superman was beating the shit out of most of them, but like when Guy Gardner went down, Hal Jordan like put the I think he trapped him with something, and then the rest of them like put him in a safe, and he was in there, and he didn't have enough leverage to like punch his way out. Essentially, they won that fight against Superman, so I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, there's
I would have liked to. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Christina.
Oh, I would have liked to see them be introduced a little bit more. Like, I felt like they didn't build up to that moment
Yeah.
from the side of the Green Lanterns very much. It felt very abrupt. And I thought it was funny how the conflict kind of happened between Superman. Because when they're just talking in the sky, it almost felt like they weren't really going to fight. And then Hal Jordan makes a comment about Wonder Woman, and that's what kind of starts the fight. I just thought that was, like, really silly.
Oh, that ends the fight.
Oh, no, well, I felt like they kicked off the fight because he made some joke and Superman didn't like it, and that kind of like kicked off the fight.
Yeah, they did. They were kind of like in a weird way in those scenes, like very comic relief like too.
Yeah.
I found.
Yeah.
Because like then at one point, like when Wonder Woman comes in and he makes that comment or whatever, and Superman looks at
Yeah.
him, and it's like, we're not on the same side here. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah, why did they have to wear those dumbass outfits too? They look stupid, man. Like,
I like
was
it.
it like Really?
They were like dogfighter outfits. They were bomber jackets.
Yeah, I know.
And, yeah, I thought it would be because I don't know. I kind of like the whole like like they still dress like pilots because they don't know any better. Like they're not gonna wear spandex like Green Lantern does.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I definitely get that, Chris. But okay, so I don't know if you guys know much about aviation history as far as like war times go, but the reason that they dress like that is because it got so fucking cold.
Yeah.
At those altitudes, right? And
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah, so that's why they dress like that. That's why the bomber jacket was like basically developed was for the Air Force pilots that would,
Right.
fly these incredible altitudes.
Yeah.
So as a Green Lantern, as somebody who is basically shielded an array
Yeah.
of green energy, it just doesn't play as well, man. It just doesn't play as
That's
well.
true.
And those hats look so stupid too.
yeah. That's true.
like, it
but
was like-
if they were going in there with like superhero outfits, that would be weird too because they're not heroes at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I didn't need superhero outfits, but if it was something more to the along the lines of like, just like
Okay,
just like
okay.
an army
What would you
uniform,
do?
You know,
I got one. You go first. What would you have them wear?
I would just have them in an army uniform
Army
or like an
uniform?
Air Force uniform.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Biker jackets. Hell's Angels biker, jackets. And helmets.
Hell's Angels.
And
Nice.
then when they're flying, they're not just flying like morons. They're flying freaking Harleys made from like the green material that they do. That'd be so cool.
That would've been
They
cool.
made
But
constructs
they
of
were
like
affiliated
Harleys.
with the government in the
That would've been cool.
1960s.
I know.
That wouldn't have fit the context of the
Obviously, I'm
story.
kidding.
That would've been
Like,
cool.
I don't actually want that.
I would have dug that. You know what would have been awesome, dude? If the backstory was Hal Jordan was the leader, the flight leader of like the most like the most victorious squadron in all of World War II,
Mhm.
and they had to bring him back out of retirement and his
Yeah.
pilots, and they all get the ring, or they could have done they could have done the were they called the Black Hawks or the Dark Hawks? What were they called?
I don't know.
The DC the DC
Oh.
guys, the
Yeah.
you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The one pilot from that deserted island. Oh, fuck, I don't remember. I just saw that one Justice League Unlimited episode with
Yeah, that would have been cool as
Yeah,
shit.
that was cool.
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome
Yeah.
if they brought them back and then Hal Jordan led those guys and gave them all Green Lantern
yeah.
rings. And then they're like,
that would have been so
and-
cool.
yeah, and it would have been really awesome to see them like have a conversation about like, oh, you think this is flying? You think flying these jets are flying? Check this fucking thing out.
Yeah,
Gives him
yeah.
the ring and he's just like, oh my god, dude, what the fuck?
That's cool.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
That would have been dope.
I feel like they're all like pilots anyway. Like I feel like Hal Jordan in this like incarnation is like a fighter pilot. So and then like everybody
Yeah.
else like Guy Gardner. I know it's like a weird coincidence that they're all fighter pilots, but like I feel like they were all like these retired, not even, maybe even active duty pilots. And that's why they were wearing that uniform because that's pretty much what they wear on normal active duty. So they just had like nothing else to wear, so they just wore their cool pilot outfits. I don't know, like I agree with you with that with the helmets. or with the weird things on their heads. But I kind of dig the whole bomber jacket, like even the goggles I like because they don't know any better,
Oh,
right?
I hate the goggles.
I like the
Oh,
goggles.
I
Oh,
love
I
the
hate
goggles.
goggles.
Like,
I
see-
always like a good goggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like goggles. Goggles are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on people who fly. Like, I don't know, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, like they're
Like, it's
shielded,
hand-in-hand.
but they don't know that, right? Like they're
Yeah.
like new to this whole thing. But anyways, like, did you guys like how like I know Christina, you already said, and I agree with you. Like, do you like the amount of time that they were there? Because I feel like they were there in 2 scenes only, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted
That's
to see
it.
so much more of that.
Yeah,
I
me too.
would've
Yeah,
liked-
of course.
Yeah, I wanted them
think
to be
it-
part of the story.
I think it kind of makes sense though in terms of, and this is something I know that you guys kind of mentioned, Chris, I think at least like previously about like DC animated movies, what they do is that they don't explain everything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
Like, they like are like, okay, if you're watching this, you're clearly like a fan, so you like know,
Yep.
you know what
Yeah.
it's about. Like obviously if this was like a longer thing, then obviously you would want
Yep.
more of a deep dive. But it's like, okay, we know who the Green Lanterns are. You don't have to like obviously they're different in this iteration, but we get the gist of them. And so I mean, I did feel like they were there for like a really short amount of time in a way that was kind of like, oh look, we're here, like kind of like a
Yeah.
shout out more
Yeah.
than a
Yeah.
whereas like Batman kind of had like more of a built story than like the Green Lanterns, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of that.
gotcha.
Yeah.
See, what I would have done was like had I been given this movie, and I don't know if it's just me wanting this fight, is if Wonder Woman actually like followed through with believing in Superman for this long, because obviously by the end of it she doesn't believe in him anymore because he's wrong. But if she at this point she still was kind of on Superman's side, if she brought the Themyscirians on Superman's side and the Green Lanterns fought the Themyscirians, that would be the coolest thing ever, I think.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That definitely would have been
And then-
cool. The other thing I was thinking, go ahead, Chris.
No.
Finish your thought.
good.
No.
Oh, I was just thinking
No,
that
no,
like
finish your thought.
that would have been the instance where like during that fight, that would have been the instance where I would have put Wonder Woman's failing in like falling out with Superman. That would have been at that fight. Maybe like he was too egregious in this fight, he was too ruthless or something like that, and that's where I would have turned Wonder Woman against Superman because he sees his like lust for fighting or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. No, that would have been cool, man. One of the things I'm very disappointed in, and you know, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. One of the great things about the Green Lanterns is the constructs, right? The constructs are always, they're the hero of the show, you know, like depending on how complex it gets or how artistic it gets or whimsical they get, that's what fans of the Green Lantern Corps get excited about, is seeing these crazy constructs.
Yep.
Now, the cool one I saw in the animated movie was the Iron Maiden helmet thing that they put on Superman's head. That was kind of dope.
Yeah.
I really like that one. But as far as creativity with the constructs, and it's sad because you figure with animation, like the medium of animation, it would be so much easier to kind of do something more difficult, right?
Mhm.
But it seems that they're getting just as lazy with the animation constructs as they do in the films, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously we only have one film example of the Green Lantern, but yeah. And then another note, I want to say the Green Lantern Corps was so much more interesting in the comic book, the 3-part comic book than the movie, for sure. There's something that's very specific to Hal Jordan's backstory that echoes back to just before he became Parallax, which is really fucking cool. And if you have access to this miniseries, read it, especially if you're a Hal Jordan fan, because I think that there's this one scene, it's literally just a couple panels, but it really personifies who we understand Hal Jordan to be, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Sabi, you read it. What do you think?
No, I think I feel the same way. So, and like you mentioned, there is more of a backstory, and we get more of that, like why sort of Hal Jordan was the one worthy enough to also be the one like to use this
Yep.
power as well. Like they went into that as well. I think much more like in depth. Mine is like a 3-part comic series, so you're gonna get a lot more out of the story anyway.
Yep.
But it definitely gave me more of a connection with the Green Lantern Corps. And here it was like really cool to see them. Like I was like, oh, cool, look, they're here. Whereas in that, like the backstory built.
Mm-hmm. Like, going back to what you said, Frank, I like to about the constructs. I completely agree with you. Honestly, this has always been a problem with me in DC movies and in like works of fiction, it's just like shows and stuff. Obviously not in the comics, but with Green Lanterns and Flash, like their powers are like so kind of nerfed when it involves other people. Like the most
Yeah.
the most I ever see Green Lanterns do is like a baseball bat, a gun, and a fist. And it's like you can do so much more cooler things. But like
Yeah.
in the Flash as well, like they have to power him down because he's in like amidst all of these other heroes that aren't on his power level. So he's like a buffoon in a lot of like the works. But like when you get them in their own movies, like when it's like just a Green Lantern work of art, it's like they you actually get the cool construct that make his character so lovable, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
I agree. Like it's like they're always just so rudimentary and so boring when they're with a movie that isn't about them. It's like, ugh, do something cool, man. I don't know.
Yeah, you got to read like if you're fantasy and crazy constructs, you got to read Kyle Rayner's.
Yeah, Kyle Rayner's
run.
the coolest. Like I think because of the fact that he's an artist. Like I've always
He's a graphic
liked-
designer.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you give a graphic designer
Yeah.
a Green Lantern ring. Like imagine what could come of that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
for
so
sure.
fucking cool. So cool.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the Green Lantern Corps. I think much more, like, probably longer than they were in the actual movie for, but that's just how much we love them.
So
but-
true, eh? So true.
Yeah.
But that just tells people how much we love the Green Lantern
Yeah,
Corps. Probably me
exactly.
more than anybody else, but
Oh,
yeah.
I love them too, man.
Yeah.
that's good, man.
but the
And
but the
brightest
battle
day
does,
and blackest night. Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
The battle does continue though.
Sure
with
does.
Superman and Green Lantern, and we also have talked about that whole Wonder Woman scene. And it really continues with, you know, with Superman finally facing down Lex Luthor and Brainiac in a sense as well. Which is kind of what this whole comic has been leading up to. You know, you've had Lex kind of send all these things over, like his plans. First, it was the Superior Man, and then like that whole rogues gallery of people. But this is like the final showdown.
Yeah, but just like let's add a footnote to the Rogues Gallery thing. We only see them in a museum in the animated film for some reason. We don't really get to see them in action except in the comic book.
Yeah.
Like there's no actual action scene
It's a
with
bandwidth
them.
problem. Yeah.
So there's one scene I just want to quickly backpedal to, and I think this scene is very, very short. It's very insignificant if you're not looking for any subtext or you're not looking for any deeper meaning behind it, but I think there's a lot there. It's when he's at his dining room table, just after he has that conversation with Wonder Woman about Brainiac. He's sitting across the table from this, I think this is a Chinese diplomat, and Superman is picking up on the fact that this guy is really tense and really anxious around him. He asks him, he says, why? Like, we've known each other for years. Like, you know, we've been working together for such a long time. Why are you so tense and why are you so anxious around me? He starts to kind of give a very, you know, scripted kind of platitude, kind of like, you know, just a whatever kind of like non-answer. And then Superman insists that he answers him honestly. And this guy tells him that he's scared shitless by Superman, right? Rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is indicative, like this takes away a lot of credence in what Superman's trying to do across the world, because it makes you contemplate whether his success in bringing communism across the globe within his world has it been because it's on its own merits, or it's
Yeah,
because everybody's scared of Superman?
Right.
Everybody's scared to stand up to him and push back against him and to challenge his ideologies. Like, is that why communism's been so successful? Or like was it successful on its merits, or was it successful because nobody wanted to piss off Superman?
I think people started to become more afraid of him as time went on. It seemed at the beginning that everything was pretty jovial and people weren't afraid of him. He was pretty friendly and stuff. But I think as time went on and he became more controlling of his population and people started to hear about what he was doing in his own country, I think that's when other people started to become scared of him.
Yeah, and I really love that question that scene posed. I agree, like that scene actually has a lot of layers, because it's like at what point does his vision, like at what point does the vision drive the machine, or like and in what point does he like enforce it himself, right? Like I love that whole thing where it's like it harkens back to that whole thing about like him as a symbol and then his vision as a symbol, and it's like it's like, is it my vision that's working, or is it me that's making everybody else as scared as they are? And it also like it reinforces why the Wonder Woman Superman relationship is so powerful, is so like important in that movie, is because she was the only one not scared of him, and she was the only one that believed him on an equal footing, and everybody else was like under him, because both in stature and in power, right? Because he's not only the leader, the leader of this whole thing, like he can fuck up anyone except for Wonder Woman, right? So I really like that scene for sure, where like I think even Superman like at that scene take a double check and see like and think to himself like, am I like, is this working because the vision's good, or is it working because I'm unstoppable? Yeah, so I don't know. Like I definitely agree that's a really good scene.
And I think we definitely start to see his allies start to criticize his ideals and the way it's sort of like making him do things in the real world. So I think we do see that challenge come from both
Well, he
Wonder
started
Woman
off as
and
like,
Lois Lane.
yeah, and he started off as like a superhero, like he was like a superhero, and then he assumed like the office, you know what I mean, and the head of everything as well. So his first introduction was that kind of like a figurehead in a sense, you know what I mean, like representing like he's the Red Sun. And now it's different, he's in charge, he's calling the shots. And so yeah, like like you said, mentioned, Chris, Wonder Woman is like the only person kind of there who's on equal footing. But everyone else, like it's clear in this version, like he does see them as being below him too. Like he does, like, even if he doesn't say it. You wouldn't brainwash people if you didn't think you were smart enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can see that in his language too. It's always like, I can fix them, I can fix this, I can fix that. It's like, it's not like like it's very like authoritative. You know what I mean? It's very like I have the power to do it, so I have the responsibility to do it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so shortly after, there's that huge confrontation between Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Lex Luthor, I think they jumped to like 1983, and Superman is starting to be vilified across the globe by people who aren't Batman. But obviously the Batman, the Batman supporters are somewhat behind it. So he's starting to kind of see cracks in his empire that he's built. And as this is happening, at the top of the Cold War, like the 1980s, Lex Luthor is being sworn in as president of the United States. He's being sworn in as the leader of, I guess, the capitalist world, whoever's left over, as far as the capitalist countries go. So he's leading the United States. And we don't get a lot of substantial narrative about Luthor's presidency. Like we don't get what we got in the comic book. There's a lot more to Luthor's presidency in the comic book than there is in the animated series. So you don't really get a lot of it, but I think that's a significant thing, that Lex Luthor becomes president of the United States.
Even in the comic, like he fixes everything within like a year or two, like a few years, like, you know what I mean? So like, I want to know like what he put into place there, because like basically like before him, like America's kind of like in the comics or like in the movie kind of on its like last leg, like it's only a matter of time before Superman comes in and quote unquote saves them. And Lex really turns that all around once he assumes presidency within the matter, I think, of like a year or two. But he which is kind of disproves Superman's point that like only Superman's way is the one that will thrive, and that no other way is right.
But it also pokes a hole in the ideology versus ideology argument too, because up until this point, once communism became the popular ideology, it seems like the capitalist countries have been suffering. The capitalist countries are the ones that are kind of on the downturn, and the communist countries are the ones that are thriving. So does this echo the idea that if one excels, the other one has to die? Like, is that what this is basically saying? Or is this more a message about the merits of man, like the merits of like that, like it's up to the individual whoever is applying this ideology? Is that what it's supporting?
I think it's
by the
more
fact that Lex
merits.
Luthor comes in and he's successful.
I think it's the merits of man, like of people, really, because in terms of ideologies and such, like anything works in like a, like, you know, it's like Plato, like he talked about like this perfect world where everything exists in perfect form, and everything that humans do is just like a lame imitation that is like bound to be flawed. You know what I mean? Like it's that idea where it's like, you know, these ideas in theory, like, you know, work out perfectly. Like, you know, communism being one, democracy being another one, but we've seen them corrupt in either, like, you know, both corrupt in either way. So I
Yep.
don't know. But with the one surviving and the other one not surviving, I think that has more to do with people thinking they're right, you know. And
I think so
you know,
too. Yeah, I think so too. Because I think it, you know, I think it's very clear that once Lex Luthor is the guy to step forward and gain control, then he's the guy that turns the nation around within
Yeah.
a couple of years.
Well,
And it
Yeah,
speaks to the
also-
abilities
oh,
of Lex Luthor. It doesn't speak to the failings of capitalism. It speaks
Yeah.
to the merits
To
of
the
Lex
person behind
the
it,
merits of
yeah.
Lex Luthor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the big undertone of this, is like the vision of socialism is kind of overshadowed by the successes of Superman. And the same thing with capitalism, like the failure. It was because a brilliant man like Lex was at the helm of it that it succeeded, and not because the idea itself was flawed or not flawed, because it's all just about the actions of the people that kind of take on these ideals to spread among their own people. And it's like it's more about the people themselves, like putting it into action than it is about the dream, which was Superman, which was the idea that Superman got disproven throughout this movie was, if the idea is perfect, like shouldn't the world just accept it? And then throughout the movie, like he had to go out and do it himself, and then he became the failure, right? Like it became about him doing it and not about the idea itself spreading because it's the good idea, right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I also think that even if you're such a smart person, you need to get feedback from all the other smart people around you, like no matter what. So I think that's where the merits of democracy might come through. And Lex Luthor, being a smart person, probably would have done that. He would have surrounded himself by like other people who knew things and wouldn't be afraid to speak up and tell him things.
No, everybody makes some great points. Everybody makes some very salient points about the balancing ideologies and the balance of these particular individual characters within the story. So after Superman's big standoff with the Green Lantern Corps, and when Wonder Woman comes in to saves his ass, and then there's this last ditch attempt for the Green Lanterns to try and kill him, and then totally fucking fail. Even though they have like Green Lantern Gatling guns, that was like really the only cool construct in the entire movie.
Yeah.
He flies up to Brainiac, and they kind of fly together to Washington, D.C. They get to the White House. You don't really know what's going to happen unless you read the comic book. And he comes down onto the White House lawn, and Lois Lane walks out with the bottle city of Stalingrad in her hands. Personally, I like the comic book. I like the comic book
letter?
moment for this particular moment way better than I like this. To me, this is too heavy-handed. Like the whole like, here's a bottled city. What, you want to put us all in a bottle? Like it's just
Really?
there's
Yeah.
I kind of like
there's no finesse behind it.
Oh,
There's no
yeah, I
finesse
guess
behind
so.
it, right?
How
Right?
did she get it? Well, you'd figure he would have like locked it up somewhere.
No, it's
and what if
because
someone drops it?
it's because Batman and Lex Luthor were working together, and like that's how he lost it in the first place. Is like Batman was blowing up the Kremlin, I think, and
Oh, okay.
and like I think Batman took it as part of their deal with Lex Luthor, I think, right? Or am I just connecting the dots that aren't there?
You might
No,
be
I
connecting
think-
dots, but I don't know. I actually don't
Yeah.
remember.
If
Because
you know, if it's any defense at all, this is one of the more difficult DC animated films to follow. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, the reason why I think like that's how he gets it is because that's how Superman loses it in the first place was Batman's attack on his terrorist attack on the city, and that's how he lost it in the first place because he blows it up, right? So like logically, like he would be the only one that could take it out, or Lex had like people there, but as part of the deal with Batman, I suspect that like that's why he did it. And I agree,
Yeah.
like it's not as subtle, but the thing is like there wasn't really that much time to develop like a relationship between Lex and Superman where like the subtlety could be offset by like this previous relationship
True.
that they had, right? Like
True.
they had to do it. It was the climax of the movie in which their relationship wasn't developed enough for this letter to be like the main thing that turned Superman. I like the metaphor. Like, I think it's a little in your face. I agree.
It's ham-fisted. Yeah, it's ham-fisted. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. It worked for me. I don't
And
know what's
then-
better, but I did think it did work, you know?
Yeah, and we talked about, like, in part one, we talked about how Brainiac was able to manipulate Superman to this point of believing that he had him under his control, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
That was cool.
Yeah, but this is the point where he reveals to Superman that he has his own agenda, and he destroys bottled city of Stalingrad in Superman's hands, and then this conflict ensues, and Brainiac starts attacking Superman, and there's this fight, and I think this is where Lex Luthor comes in with his armor, or his war armor. That's what they called it in the comic books, right? The war armor or something like that. His war suit or some shit like
Yeah.
that. So Lex shows up to lend an assist. Him and Superman kind of try to divide Brainiac's attention. One kind of taking the blunt of the laser blast from Brainiac's ship, while the other, I think, is trying to like break the force field around it. They end up being able to penetrate Brainiac with some sort of technology that Lex Luthor has. Superman's able to get in, destroy Brainiac. Then there's this Lex Luthor figures out that Brainiac's ship is melting down, and when it explodes, it's going to be the size of like 16, 15 black holes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to
Yeah,
have
a
the
lot of
destructive
them.
force of a lot of black holes. So Superman has to carry Brainiac's ship far away enough that it doesn't destroy the planet. And he tells him, like, Lex says something like, "You're not even that fast." And there's like this exchange where it's like, "Yeah, watch me." And Superman flies off with Brainiac's ship. It blows up in space. We assume that he died, but he didn't die. So,
Yeah, we know. You, as soon as the explosion happened, you're like, he's not dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's in terms of that. But that whole scene there is really interesting because, like, that's like classic Superman to me. Like, he makes a sacrifice play, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel
Yep.
like in that moment, that is like the Superman that we kind of know. And so it kind of shows, like, at the end of the day, regardless of, like, not really pushing aside stuff he did because he brainwashed people, he still makes that, like, sacrifice play. I find it interesting
Right.
that, he didn't have, like, the mindset to, or like he really did not understand what he was doing until Lex gave, or until that note, that was
Yeah.
what took him. Like, it never hit him before that what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah. Which is, yeah. Well, like, until it wasn't a note, it was in the movie, at least, it was the metaphor with the bottled
Yeah.
city.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right. Like, like the turnaround is like really, really fast, right? It's just like really weird.
It
It's
was like, oh shit.
oh, here's a
like,
metaphor for you. Like, Batman died to explain that to you. You didn't get it then. Wonder Woman turned on you when she was like, Wonder Woman told you that too, to your face, and you didn't get it, but Lois Lane could do it.
Yeah, that's-
So-
yeah,
He's
see-
the visual, like, Chris.
It was
He's a
also many
visual
years-
learner.
It was
Yeah.
also many
Visual
years
learner.
later too, right?
Yeah.
So he had age under his belt at that point.
It was
as
just
well.
he was just a visual learner. Everybody
Yeah,
else,
exactly.
everybody else just didn't know it was a
yeah,
visual
that's
learner.
why I didn't like the bottled city ending, because the letter, it has some intellectual weight to
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah.
you really have to sit there and think about it. And then in the comic book, they even show you the scene where Lex Luthor is writing the letter, and he explains to Lois what he's doing,
Yeah.
and then you get it. You're
Yeah,
like, oh
yeah,
shit,
for sure.
okay,
See, this is why
and
in the
it-
movie.
it-
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, like, this is why in the movie I thought it was really crucial that Wonder Woman did that like last part where I said this in the previous episode, like that part where Lois, it's either the letter or like that part of Lois like showing him the final metaphor. That should have been Wonder
Yep.
Woman, because like then it wouldn't have been this like 180 turnaround of like, okay, like I was wrong this whole time out of nowhere, like, you know what I mean, out of left field. But if it was Wonder
Yeah.
Woman that did it, it wouldn't be out of left field, because she was the one following him throughout his dreams and watching his dreams crumble before him, right? So if she
No,
was the
I
one that
agree.
made him see it, that would make so much more sense, right? Like
Because
if she had
what
the Stalingrad, I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, sorry, you were
because
saying.
what they were no, I was saying what they were banking on was like we know the relationship between Lois and Superman in this other world, so that's why he needs
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
But in terms of the movie, you're right. Like if it was Wonder Woman, like
It's a
she
weird
was
trick.
much
It's a
more
cheap trick.
significant figure.
Now, what did you guys think of this final action set piece? Like, were you guys impressed with the way that this was like laid out and the way it was
Nah.
performed? And
I was kind of
No?
confused as to where they were sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
at what part when they're in front of the White House?
Not the lighthouse part, but like even like earlier, I'm like, because I had read the comic first, I was like, oh, are they in London right now doing this thing, or is this happening here? So I think like I was confused with that a bit.
Okay.
But in terms of like the grand scheme of like the stage that was set, it was kind of like bam, bam, bam to me. Like it was kind of like
Mhm.
quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it didn't have that like
Yeah.
that levity to it. Like I would say like the way the stage was set between like Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, like that scene was like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
That should have been
Yeah,
that was
like,
great.
yeah.
but in terms of this, it was. I mean, I liked the movie and I did like the ending, but it was very quick. So
Yeah. For me, I would have played up, like if like I didn't like it because it was just it felt like they were nearing the end of the movie and they're like, let's just wrap it up and let's just give them a 180 turnaround and then let's give them a final boss to fight randomly. Like I wanted to see Superman and Lex fight. I want them because the entire time they were fighting this chess battle with each other. If there was gonna be a fight in the end, which I am not fully behind either, like there didn't have to be a fight in the end, in my opinion, for this one. But if there did have to be one, it should have been Lex and Superman as the final the final two chess pieces left, right? And then if they wanted to throw in Brainiac, throw him in afterwards, right? Like throw him in at the end where it's like while Superman discovers that he was the one wrong this whole time, then throw in Brainiac. But like this whole thing
Yeah.
where it's like let's just fight Brainiac in the end together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like and the whole like war suit reveal. As soon as you reveal the war suit, I want a goddamn fight with Superman. Like that's what the war suit's for. Like I don't want you to fight Brainiac. Like
So
No,
I
good
think it
point.
was important that there's not actually a fight because it's still supposed to be a Cold War. They were still supposed to.
Yeah,
do
yeah, I
that.
agree
Like,
with
it
you,
wasn't
yeah.
actually supposed to be. Yeah.
but it
Well, in a
But
way,
yeah,
I agree.
it did feel a bit fast,
symbolically,
the
it is a
pacing.
Cold War, though, right? Like symbolically, it is a Cold War. Superman is the
but I think that's
equivalent of a
why
nuclear
that's
warhead.
why Lex. But that's why Lex and Superman can't fight because Superman.
Yeah,
is a
but
weapon.
Superman did fight the Green Lantern Corps. That was already like if that was already there, it's too late. You can't say
Yeah.
that like Lex can't like Superman can't fight because it's a Cold War. There was already a declaration of war, which was sending over the Green
Yeah.
Lantern Corps.
But
and
I
then-
feel like if he fights Lex, it doesn't feel like a Cold War anymore. I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did you guys catch? Okay, so that scene when Superman is flying Brainiac out into the darkness of space. Did you catch that one little moment where Superman's expression changes from like a very hard grimace, this satisfied smile? Did you guys see that?
Probably noticed it at the time, but not right now. I can't recall it. No.
Okay, well, he's flying Brainiac out into space and he smiles.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we can all kind of envision in our own heads.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think he went from this hard exterior, this hard grimace to a smile at this moment?
I think he finally felt like this was his purpose.
Yeah,
you
like
know,
he
I
saved
think
the
this
world.
whole
There we
time He was
go.
trying to
Yeah.
fix everything.
Yeah.
And in the end, like he really didn't fix,
Mhm.
or at least in the way it was meant to be fixed.
Yeah.
And so this was it. He's like, I did it. It was like a pat on his back. You know what I mean? He was
Yeah.
patting himself on the back.
No, and
I love that. That's
and
great.
I
No, I
definitely
felt the same
liked
way.
How Lex said somebody asked Lex like where is he going and he's like he's gonna save the world, and then he had that smile, like that Superman smile. Like they both knew that like Superman actually saved the world. Like I definitely like that. That's cool.
And like Lex must know at that point. I know in the movie, like, so after this happens, everyone thinks Superman is dead. But Lex kind of goes on this thing when he talks about Superman. He talks about him being, you know, still kind of like a tyrant, right? In the movie, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah. And so with that, it's like Lex must know that his heart was in the right place, if that even matters with everything he's done.
He doesn't care though. He doesn't care though. Like Superman is still his
Yeah.
Superman is still his enemy. Superman is still his enemy. Superman is Lex's enemy across the board. Like they have very strong different ideologies, and they don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. But when it came to saving the world, when it came to preventing the Earth's destruction, or like some sort of existential event, that's the only time they could see eye to eye, right? So I don't think that Lex sees Superman any differently at the end of the movie. But like, do we want to talk about that little Clark Kent kind of hint at the end?
Wait, which hint?
He's in the crowd.
Oh yeah,
dressed like Clark Kent.
for sure. He is, and then like Lois kind of sees him, but then like doesn't really see him. I don't know. Is that not cliche a bit?
Yeah.
I don't think it's cliche. I think that it's cute because Superman was like, he looked exactly like Clark Kent would, like the newsman outfit,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that part. That was good. Yeah, so I enjoyed the movie, but I'm really getting a little discouraged with the DC animated universe the more and more I realize that the adaptations that they're making from the comic books aren't as accurate as they can be. And especially this one, because I think that some of the things that they left out is just, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Like, I almost feel like they committed a crime
Yeah.
when they didn't include that ending.
If you
Like, the
Yeah.
ending, the ending in the comic book is fucking one of the best endings in comic book history. Like, I'm
It's
sorry,
real meta,
like,
for sure.
but
No,
like,
but it does.
yes,
Like they really do this crazy ending, and I guess in the comic, and I wonder if it's because it might just be too like meta for the movie itself. Like I don't know their reason for like.
it makes a direct connection between two of the main characters that is inexorable. Like it's existential, and it's universal, and it's just the gravity of this particular revelation at the end of the comic book would have been a huge payoff at the end of the film. Saba, don't you agree?
I don't know if it would be a huge payoff. I do agree that it does like tie in something together that is crazy and mind-boggling and gives you this like existential thought. Hopefully the listeners here are wanting to read the comic after this because we're
Well, now I really have to get to the end of this comic. Now
Christina's
Oh
it's
my
like killing
God.
me. I really need to find out what happens next.
Oh my god. Yeah, so that's basically it for our spoiler hot review of Superman Red Son. Tell us what you guys think of Superman Red Son. You know, the movie's been out for quite a while. Everybody's in quarantine. I know I've been catching up on some DC animated universe stuff. And let's definitely wish a happy birthday to the man in question. Happy birthday, Big Blue. Happy birthday, Superman.
Happy birthday.
The first, are you guys singing Superman Happy Birthday?
Are we singing it? Okay.
No, I am not
No.
singing. You guys can sing. I will listen.
No, well, I think that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to our review of Red Son, the newest release in the DC animated film universe. We really enjoyed this movie. We hope that you guys get a chance to go see it. And please make sure you pick up this comic book. Make sure you pick up this miniseries. It's fantastic. And it's a great thing to kind of contrast against the film. Without further ado, we're going to sign off here. I'm Frank McGuire.
I'm Christina Dudema.
I'm Saba Mir.
I'm Chris Abana.
Peace.
Bye.